Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Amanda and in today's video I'm gonna attempt to make a Reformation dress. About a month ago I was in San Francisco. I actually spent like $200 on a dress. I have it now and at least it's amazing. I really love this dress. It's this beautiful green color and I love it so much that I actually want another one. And no way I'm gonna spend another $200 on a dress. So I am going to make my own. I found this really old maxi skirt and I thought that the print was just so cute and I don't really use it anymore. So I wanted to try and cut it up and then make it into a completely new dress. A slight issue, I have never actually sewn a garment before. I made pillowcases when I was like 10. But otherwise I've never actually constructed a piece of clothing. So this is gonna be a challenge. Lately I've become a lot more conscious about my consumption and I don't know, it's just great to see so many people thrift flipping and reusing old clothes and just having fun with it. If spending a few hours sewing a dress can help me limit my contribution to climate change and save me $200, I'll do it. Anyway, that is enough talking. Let's get into the video. Okay, so the first thing I did was lay out my skirt and figure out how I could make the most of the fabric I had. Then I laid out my original dress on top of the skirt, and as you can see, my dress is going to be a bit shorter and not as wide as the original. Now, because the fabric on my skirt is a really thin cotton, I had to find some lining fabric for the inside, or it would have no structure whatsoever. Then I started tracing the different pieces of the bust onto a piece of paper. Now, this is no exact science and I basically just eyeballed it, but I'll leave a link to a video in the description where you can learn to do this the right way. On the middle piece, I did do some measuring to get the dimensions right. I decided to add about 1 centimeter of seam allowance onto the paper, but you can also do that later. So the top is made of 4 separate pieces, the middle, the back, and 2 side panels. And to keep everything symmetrical, I just cut the side panel, flipped it over, and had the same shape but mirrored for the other side. As you can see, the original dress has the zipper in the back, but mine is going to be on the right side, so my back piece will not be 2 separate pieces. To test the pattern out, I decided to start with the lining and cut all the pieces from that first. I assembled everything right sides together with 1 centimeter of seam allowance and ran a top stitch along all the layers, still leaving the right side open. Then, when everything was in one piece, I zigzagged all the way along the edge of the entire top because this fabric frays an insane amount. Right about now would be a great time to try on your top and see that everything fits. You should have a bit of overlap on the side that is still open. Mine was good, so let's move on. Oh god, it's always so nerve-wracking to cut something up like this. Anyway, I cut away the top of the skirt enough for all of the bust pieces and a few long strips as well. Then I opened up the side and removed the drawstring so I had one long, almost rectangle piece of fabric. After cutting out the pattern again, I repeated the exact same steps as with the lining. Placed all the pieces right sides facing each other and pinned them down with 1 centimeter of seam allowance. Then I top stitched everything down once again to create an exact replica of the lining piece. To get rid of all the bulky seams, I grabbed an iron and split them and flattened everything out. This will just look a lot nicer when it's finished. And now for the assembly. And then only place needles along the top edge. My mom had to save me from sewing this whole thing shut. Anyway, only the top edge. And then I stitched all the way along the needles with a straight stitch. To avoid the seams folding and bunching up when flipped inside out, I made a few nicks across the curved areas. And the reverse with the back piece. And now we can really see this start to come together. So I flipped the top right sides out, I ironed along the edge, rolling the yellow side in just a few millimeters to be sure the lining wouldn't peek out. Then I ran a straight stitch along it one last time to secure everything in place and finish off the neckline. At this point I tried it on again and everything was still looking pretty good. For the skirt, I just measured my waist and added 2 centimeters of seam allowance. Then I cut diagonally down the length of the skirt, leaving the entire length of the bottom to have as much width as possible. I repeated this for the lining, so I had 4 skirt panels in total, 2 front and 2 backs, and they are all exactly the same. And then pinned the left side of the skirt right sides facing and straight stitched the 2 pieces together, leaving the right side still open. And yeah, it still fits. I ran 2 straight stitches parallel along the top of the skirt and gently tugged at the bottom thread to gather the fabric just a little bit. I don't want gathers that are too visible, it's just to match up the lengths. Then I pinned and attached the skirt with a straight stitch and repeated everything one more time with the lining. As you can see, my zipper is really short, so to get this dress over my head, I'll have to place it a ways down, leaving the top of the dress closed. I sewed both lining and fabric together about 5 centimeters down from the top edge. Of course, right sides facing. Then I measured the length of the zipper and pinned down the rest of the skirt all the way down to the bottom and sewed up the right side seam with a straight stitch. It is really important to iron these seams down, also along the gap, because this is how I attach the zipper. I placed the zipper into the gap between the lining and the front fabric, so it was completely enclosed. Okay, so this was so hard and it took me forever to do with really mediocre results. No, not even mediocre. Yeah, let's move on from this disaster. Okay, the straps. I cut 4 strips of about 50 by 3 centimeters, then fold them in half, right sides facing, and stitched down the middle. Now you can pin a safety needle to one end and run it through the tube like so. This is going to flip it inside out, and now it is a really cute strap just on its own. But I wanted mine to look as much like the one from Reformation as possible, so I wanted them even more dainty and thin. I did this by first tucking in the end to hide any raw edges, and then folding the strap in on itself and hand stitching all the way down. This did take forever to do, but I really like the way they turned out. Then I hand stitched them onto the dress, and the reason why I have 4 is so I can tie them on the shoulder. Finally, I hemmed the bottom of the skirt and my dress is done. I've got the time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more videos like this, then please let me know in the comments and I might just do another. But yeah, I had so much fun making this video. I really enjoyed transforming clothes into something new, and now I have a pretty little sundress. So obviously I am still learning how to sew, but if you want any actually useful tutorials, then I'll link some in the description. I'm still very much a beginner when it comes to sewing, but if you want some actually useful sewing tutorials, then you should go to the description box where I'll link some of my favorite channels. Thanks again so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.